Good morning, good afternoon. Okay, I want to respond to a comment. Okay. I want to respond to a comment that someone wanted to, that somebody wanted an answer to. The comment was under my backsliding video. And it was said, Miss Sharon, may I ask what happened to your mom? And happened to your mom as to why you were brought up by your grandmother. Okay, so now I'll be honest with you. Good day. Let me just welcome y'all to my channel. Thanks for stopping by. Nothing really happened to my mother as far as I know of, because I don't know whether I stated in that video, but I know I may have stated in another video, can't remember which one it was, that I was told that my mother had some issues with a substance, right? And she kept becoming undecided in reference to me because I was the baby. I was the last child that was birthed by her. And so I really don't know for surety, for a fact, and I don't like to talk on nothing that's untrue. So I don't know the fact of what was going on with my mother, that I wasn't around her, right? But I knew of her. But I think it was more so on my dad's side. I think my dad did not want me to be with her. But I don't know the truth. My mother's dead. My dad is dead. My mother's mother's dead. And my father's mother's dead. So I don't know the story behind it. But my grandmother did tell me that my father had a conversation with her first and said that I'm going to bring my daughter over to you. And I would like to know if you will take care of her. And this is the story that my grandmother's telling me, not my dad. And my grandmother is saying, no, don't bring I ain't taking care of no kids. I ain't taking care of no kids because I'm up in age and I don't need to be taking care of no kids. At this time, I believe my grandmother was working. She worked in the hospital and she did not reach retirement age yet. So that means she was in her 60s, but she didn't reach that age. So I was born in 63. So whatever the retirement age was back in 63, she hadn't reached it yet. So if it was in the 60s, she was in her 60s, but she did not reach that age of retirement because she was still working. And from what she told me, she did not want to be bothered with me. She did not want another child to take care of. And she told my father, you take care of take it to your girlfriends, whatever. I'll let the mother take care of her. So I don't know what story was said to my grandmother because she didn't tell me the story. That's one thing that my grandmother did not never talk negative about my mother. So I knew no negativity about her. So as far as this substance thing, that came from her side of the family. It didn't come from her. It didn't come from my dad's side. And as far as my dad was concerned, he never talked about his mother. I mean, his mother. He never talked to me about my mother. The only thing he would say is that I look like my mother. Certain expressions, certain ways, certain actions I would do, he would always come and hug me and he would say, "You remind me so much of your mother." And my grandmother would say the same thing. My grandmother would say, "You look like your mother. You have hair like your mother. You're supposed to have hair." But I didn't never knew nothing about my mother's hair until one day I got the call from my sister. This is way after I was married, so I'm like in my late 20s. And my sister tells me that mommy is here and we hear that you do braiding, and my mother would like mommy would like they never said my mother, they always put me in it, even though I wasn't raised up with them. She said mommy would like for you to come, she would like to know if you would come and braid her hair. And I was like, sure. So I went over, I met at my sister's house, I went over there, my mother was there, and this is like the first time I'm seeing her. I'm trying to think. I think this is the time where my daughter was in the hospital. So this is the first time I'm seeing her like in years, right? Like years. I mean, whatever. And my mother was tall. She had to be about 6'9", and she was very slim. Not well, you know, people take slim for skinniness, so I'm just gonna use the word slim because I hate the word skinny. Right? It's like an insult. Just like fat is an insult to anybody that's fat. So now, she was tall, slingy, you know. Um, and when I went to go to, she had her hair up in some type of bun. I think she was in the Muslims. She had married Muslim. Unfortunately, that gentleman died in a motorcycle accident. And they were saying that it really affected my mother because they really did care. She really did care about him. And upon the accident, she didn't come back over to, she stayed the Muslim. She kept that faith, right? She, you know, she wore a lot of, you know, the colors and stuff like that. But anyway, getting to the hair, so I went and took down, she had it like in a bun, wrapped up with the colorful scarf or whatever. And when I took it down, my mother's hair came all the way down to her waist. Now, I did not know that her hair, this was her hair. This was her hair, right? She had her hair in dreads. So I think back then during that time, they didn't have where you could put dreads in your, like, buy the dreads from the store and put it in. I don't know because I wasn't into hair like that. But this was her hair because I had to go into her scalp, right? And she must have had taken the dreads out her hair, right? And when I brought the hair down, there may have been like, I don't know, maybe little edges of it still on. I don't know. Maybe she was trying to take it out of her. But I got to braid her hair. She had very Indian type of hair. Okay, with that being said, so after that encounter, I didn't see her no more, right? For a while, right? So it never was anything talked about, Mom. And I keep forgetting, but when I would come into conversation with my sisters, little things will come out, but it would be so like, you know, the two sisters that raised up underneath Mom, they would tell me certain things about, they would be talking about certain things that happened when they was young with their mother, with our mother rather. And I'll be honest, it would be like kind of negative, but they wouldn't get into it too much. And I wouldn't ask because I would see that there was some type of effect on it, or effect to them about it. So I wouldn't get into it. So now, with that being said, so I never really knew why my mother didn't take care of me. My other sister that she gave away, I know she gave away me. And as far as giving away, I was told that my father went and got me. Because where I wasn't staying with my mother. I was staying with some relatives of my mother. And wherever I was, my father didn't like the atmosphere. He didn't like what was going on there. So I don't know, maybe he didn't like what was being done to me. I have no idea, because it's really sad. You grow up as a child and you're not with your mother, but you don't know the story about it. And family members just keep secrets and they never say nothing, you know? Or whether maybe it got to be a secret. I was going to say, well, maybe it's not really a secret, but they just don't want to talk. No, it's a secret. Secrets is what you don't talk about. What you know that may or may not be bad, and you keep it to yourself, even though it's jeopardizing somebody else's life. Even though you're feeling, you can see that it's affecting that individual, that the secret is about, but you're not saying nothing. So now, different things started coming out when my mother died. And my other sister, it was two of my sisters that was supposedly, the word is said, gave away by my mother. So it was me, I said two of my sisters, but it was just me and the other sister that was given away. So she stayed over here with the family. She was within the family. So she got to meet all the cousins, the aunts, the uncles, all that. I was on the outside of the family. So my father didn't too much let me interact with them. But my grandmother did. So I was able every year or every other year, I would go over and stay with my mother's mother. And then the next year, I would go down south with my father's mother. And then the next year, it would keep going like that, right? They had came up with a agreement that that's how it would do. Because my grandmother did not want me to not interact with my mother. Did not want me to not be a part of my mother. But the times I was at my grandmother's house, my mother's house, I never got to interact with my mother. But I got to interact with my sister, right? Not sisters, sister. Okay, so now I knew about this other sister. My father would tell me about this. He would say, Sharon, you got another sister. And I'd be like, really? Because I knew about my two older sisters that was the daughters to my mother. But I didn't know that my father had another sister that had another child by another woman, right? So I didn't know about that sister, right? But I would hear her name being talked about, being mentioned, not talked about. So again, these actions will come out of me. I was a jokester, so I would make jokes, and he would say, "You just like Jane." That's not her name. You just like Jane, and I'll be like, "Okay, all right." But I didn't know about this sister, right? So, and this is one of my sisters that died, and this is the sister on my mother's side. I mean, on my father's side, because my father had me and another sister, another daughter, and a son. So that boy, my brother, and that sister was by the same mother, and then I had the three other sisters that was on my mother's side. So I didn't know too much about those sisters. I was very sheltered. My grandmother kept me very sheltered. So I guess y'all heard in the other video that the one I'm responding to, I'm now understanding why she kept me sheltered. You see, because of certain things that was going on with certain family members that I didn't need to know about, or I didn't need to witness, or I didn't need to encounter. So a lot of things that was going on in my life, my grandmother didn't know. Because what she could protect me from, she protect me from. And when I was with my father, if I encountered certain things with him, then those was things she did not know about because I never told her. So when I went to my mother's house, so we're going to talk a little bit about my mother's. since this is what the response is about. When I went to my mother house, there was a lot of inside stuff that was going on that I had no idea about. I didn't know about, and certain things was going on there that I didn't talk about, that I didn't say nothing about. And you know, my grandmother worked, my mother's mother worked. So half of the time I was in the house by myself. The only time that I never was in the house by myself is when I was with when I was with my father's mother, the grandmother that raised me. So now I'm over here at my mother's house. I'm in the house all by myself. Even though my grandmother took care of me, I would never talk any negative about her because she was very nice. She was very nice. And she was somebody that I felt the love. Them grandmothers, they loved it me. Maybe people on the outside didn't love me or didn't show they love to me, or maybe my sister on my father's side or whatever the case may be, or church members or whatever didn't love me. But let me tell you something. My sisters on my mother's side, they loved me. I didn't get no type of enviness or malice or hatred from them. Now, mind you, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they didn't have it, but they didn't show it to me. And my oldest sister, I believe she was the first one to get married and she moved out. She would come and get me from my mother's house. I mean, I keep saying my mother. She would come and get me from my father's mother's house. And I would go and stay with her a weekend. And she would take me out and she would give me what I wanted. And there wasn't too much I wanted because I wasn't introduced to things in the world. So I didn't want outrageous things. Be like, what you want to do? Oh, I want to go to the park. Oh, you want to go to the park? Yeah, because I didn't get to go to the park, right? I want to, let me see, I'm trying to think. Oh, let's just walk well, I didn't say the mall. Let's just walk. I'll say the mall, but I don't know what it was. Let's go walk in Macy's or something like that. Oh, you want to walk in Macy's? All right, we go to Macy's. It wasn't nothing big. And she would do it for me. She would wash my hair. Every time I would go to her, not that my grandmother wasn't taking care of me, but that was her thing. Yeah, I come to her. I washed up because it was the same thing with my grandmother. So I washed up in her house, and she would have the bubble bath for me, and she would have the nice pajamas for me. She was a good mother. Unfortunately, she didn't have no children. Oh, now I'm thinking about it. She didn't have no children at all. She didn't have any. She was married, and hold on, her husband just recently died. Maybe about a year or two ago. And believe it or not, he was just like my husband, but a little bit more advanced. Where my husband can feed himself to a certain extent. If I'm correct, I don't believe her husband could feed herself. So she took on the same responsibility as I took on, but then over time she couldn't do it, so she had to hire people to do it. Where she was living at, there was no fire members, there was no family members, so she could not too much get somebody to come from the family and get paid and help out. So she took care of me. She loved at me. My other sister loved at me. My other sister that I didn't know about, that was gave away she wasn't really gave away because she stayed in the family. But she was in the family, but she didn't know too much about what was going on. She thought she was in an outside family when that was really her family, right? So, in other words, she didn't know that her mother was her mother. She didn't know that her cousin was a real cousin. No, she didn't know that her brothers was her cousin or her cousins was her brothers. No, not brothers, because she didn't have no more. My mother ain't had no more kids. So, it was like a mix-up. But when my mother died, then that's when the truth came out. And the only reason why the truth came out, because she was going to get her license. And in order for her to get her license, she had to show who she was. And when she went to go show who she was, when they ran all the stuff through the system, that wasn't coming up as her. So everything started coming out, and she got her answers, but it hurted her. Now me, I knew who my mother was. I knew her name and everything. I knew she had a house over here. I knew where she was living, but the opportunity never really arose for me to go and visit her like that, because it was always said that she wasn't there. That was her mother home. So when I got the opportunity to go there, then I was staying in the house. I was staying in the room. She had a lot of rooms up in there, so I was in the room, and nobody was there but me, her, and my uncle, and somebody upstairs. Oh, my sister upstairs, right? But I hardly saw my sister. Even though I was there, I hardly saw her. I mean, later on in life, I found out why I hardly saw her. But at the moment, those are things that will go in my head, like, my sister in the house here with me, why I never see her? Where's my mother? And stuff like that. So, to answer your question, because I know I'm a babble on about this, so to answer your question, let me get that out the way. I don't know what really happened to her. And I don't even know whether anything happened to her. So I would say I don't know what the reason is that I was not there with her. And if it was her issues, I didn't hold it against her. I went to visit her. And this is before she died, right? I'm in the church. I've always been in the church. That side of the family knows me as a church girl. Because I was raised up with a grandmother that went to church. So now, I'm in the church. I'm grown. I got my own place, whatever, me and my husband wasn't together, right? We were together. So now, this particular day, I gotta rewind it back a little bit. This particular night, I'm in my room, right? I was living in Brooklyn at 183 Malcolm X. And I don't know, the Lord just laid on my heart to pray. So I got up out the bed, I got on my knees, and I began to pray. And I prayed. I'm praying, I have my normal prayer. And next all of a sudden, my heart broke. I could barely catch my breath. I was trying to catch my breath. Right? It wasn't no sickness. It wasn't no nothing. What it was is that I was feeling what my mother was going through at the time that was coming up to her death. Right? So I'm praying and I'm trying to catch my breath and I'm crying. I'm crying. This cry is like from the depths of my soul, in my heart, like it broke, like my heart just broke in half, right? Just broke in half. I don't know. I didn't understand what was going on at that time, right? So I'm crying, and I'm just calling my mother before the Lord, and I'm asking God, step in. But I'm crying. It was like I couldn't pray anymore. I couldn't pray for her. It was like I was crying for her, right? And I'm crying. I must have stayed down there for about 2 hours, and then I'm praying again. And the thing that got me when the prayer was over, and I began to talk to the Lord. I said, Lord, I don't know what that is. I said, why it felt like I was like losing breath, right? Okay, so now with that being said, we're gonna forward wind. I was talking to this young lady in one of our churches, right? And we was talking. I don't know, for some reason I was talking about that particular situation, and then I got emotional, right? And she said, well, where your mother at? I said, she's in the hospital. And I was telling her, I said, I'm scared to go see her, right? So she said, come on. She said, I'll go with you. I'll go with you, right? Okay. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right, okay. So she took me to, I believe the hospital was downstate, downtown Brooklyn, right? We went on in there, we found her. I went in the room with her. They had the tubes in her, and she was like kind of sedated. So the nurse came in, she wanted to know who I was. I told her I'm her daughter. They said, oh, really? I said, yeah. She said, oh, I met all the other daughters. I said, yeah, I'm the baby. They said, okay, okay, yeah, you do favor her, all right. So it was like, all right, go ahead, take whatever time you need, take whatever time you need. So the young sister that went along with me, she said, okay, I'm gonna leave you alone with your mother. So I'm in there with my mother and I'm talking to my mother, right? Right. And then I said to her, I said, Mommy, I said, I don't know whether you can hear me. I was holding her hand. I said, I don't know whether you can hear me, Mommy. I said, but I want you to know that I forgive you. I said, I want you to know that I forgive you and I love you. I said, whatever happened, it happened. I said, I'm so sorry that we didn't get the chance to talk about this situation. And it has to, and it's being talked about now. And unfortunately, you can't respond to me to tell me what really went down, why I wasn't with you, why I couldn't spend time with you, why you never visit me, why that opportunity never really arose for me to come visit you. I said, but through it all, I said, I want you to know that all through those years, I don't hate you. I love you. You know, I was kind of crying, right? So I went and wiped I'm trying to hold back tears now. I went and wiped my eyes. And I'm here to tell you, you guys, especially that person that asked me that question. I saw a tear come down my mother's eyes. And I looked, I said, oh, you hear me? I started squeezing her hand, and she was moving her hand a little bit. I said, oh my, that just brought extra tears from me. And they said and I said to her, I said, oh, you hear me? Oh, thank God you hear me. Mommy, I love you, I forgive you, right? And I don't know, it must have got really emotion to her, and then that thing started going, like the heart thing. And the lady walked in, and she said, all right, she said, we got to clean her out. I don't know what was going on with her. I don't know what they meant by cleaning her out and nothing, right? So me and the young lady walked out of the room. We probably was out about 5 or 10 minutes. When it was done, the lady came and told me. Now, while I'm outside, I'm telling the young lady that went with me what transpired. And she was saying, well, I'm glad. I'm glad. She said, yeah. She said, Sharon, she said, when people is in a state like that, you know, it doesn't mean that they dead. It doesn't mean that their brain is dead. You know, the brain is still functioning. And God allowed her to hear you, and glad to know that you forgive her. Right? Because I was telling her about the tear that I see. So now while we talking, the nurse comes out and say, okay, you can go back in. Say she may be a little distraughted, but she okay. I'm here to tell you, you guys, when I went in there, I knew my mother was gone. I felt it. As soon as I walked in the room, I felt the disconnection. And I walked over to her, and I was squeezing her hand, and I was crying. Now, the lady that was with me did not understand. And so I looked at her. I said, she's gone. And I started crying. She was like, no, Sharon, she's still there. I said, no, she's gone. She's gone. And I was really, really crying. I was crying like they told me that she was dead. But I felt it. And you know what? When that situation happened, the Lord brought back to me that prayer. That what she felt when that situation happened to her, when they told us to step out the room, that's what I felt in the prayer. That's what the Holy Ghost brought back to me. And that just made me cry even more. Because what I was feeling, if that's what she was feeling, it was devastating. I couldn't get myself together. It was like I was out of my body. It was like I had no control over myself. I was trying to hold my tears. I was trying to keep my heart going right. I mean, what I was feeling was to the heart. Do you hear what I'm saying? And that must be what she was feeling when they went in there and cleaned her out, whatever they was cleaning out. But she must have was feeling my heart when I was telling her that I forgive her. And I was feeling her heart when I was praying of her response to what I said. And she left. She left. And then they came in and they said, okay, because as I was standing there talking to her, the whole picture of her was different. How they had her set up in there when we first walked in there, that wasn't how she was set up when we went in there after they did what they did. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I wanted to say something to them and say, what y'all did to my mother? Y'all killed my mother. But I couldn't say that because I didn't know she was dead, but that's just what I felt. But I'm here to tell you, I got the call the next day. Like mid-afternoon. No, I think it was mid-morning. Right? I know I got her death certificate. My sister gave me her death certificate. But I ain't got my grandmother's death certificate. The one that raised me, no, I didn't get my grandmother's death certificate because whoever was in charge of it, the cousin that was in charge of it, felt like I didn't know till after the fact, after my dad died. And I seen how that sister act. But it gave me understanding of why the cousin was acting the way she did and wouldn't give me a death certificate, because in order to claim a policy, you got to get the person's death certificate. In order to get it, if it's in your name, it doesn't even matter that you're a beneficiary or whatever. You have to show the insurance people that the person died. But I didn't get no money from my grandmother. I didn't have a policy. From what I heard, my grandmother didn't have a policy. And it wasn't that she didn't have one. It was that it expired. Because my grandmother died like 89. I think she died at the age of 89. So her policy only went up to, I think, 60 or something. Because my grandmother paid on that policy. She would send me out to mail it. It was mutual something. Mutual with an O in it. She stayed with them forever. And when she passed, it was transferred over to me. She transferred everything over to me. My insurance, my children's insurance. She took out insurance on each child that I had. My grandmother went and took insurance out on them. And she paid it every month. And I never really paid attention. Let me put it like this. I didn't see who she was paying for. She just would tell me, go put this in the mailbox, Sharon. I got to keep y'all insurances up. And she never told me that her insurance expired or whatever. So all them times I was going to the mailbox, taking the insurance in, she was paying for ours, mine and my kids. Because her insurance had already expired. I think her insurance expired when she retired. No, the year of her retirement, that's when hers expired. Didn't go. Like they maybe have insurance that go up to 100 years old or whatever. Them insurance policies that she had back then, they only went up to a certain amount of time and then they stop. Right? And I don't know. I guess she didn't. I don't know. I don't know. I can't even tell y'all about that because I don't know. And I don't like to talk about nothing I don't know. So they called me up the next morning and they told me that the doctor wants everybody to come to the hospital. All the sisters and brothers. It couldn't be no aunts. It couldn't be no cousins. It couldn't be no nephews. It had to be the immediate family, which was the daughters, the sister of her, if she had one, which I don't believe my mother didn't have no sisters. She had brothers. So it was the brothers, which was two of them, and it was us as the daughters. And they sat there, and I can't remember. I'll be honest with you, I can't remember because I was such in a daze that I actually experienced her death before she left here, and it just had me bugging out. So even though I was in the room, because they had us in a big old conference room, even though I was in, because our family's real big. So black folks, even people that wasn't their daughter, her daughter was there. Even people that wasn't their brother was there. But if I'm correct, it was just, it was in the room. It was just me, my two sisters, three sisters rather. Yeah, no, it was two sisters because the other one that I was telling you that was in the family but didn't know she was of the family, she didn't come until later on, right? So, so I never got to talk to my mother. Never got to talk to her. And every time, the different times that we did get to see one another, we never really talked about our relationship. It never was a one-on-one convo with mom. I never came to where it was just me and her. Every time we saw one another, it was with the family. And I don't know whether that was the way it was supposed to be or whether it was planned. That's how they wanted it. So they had like a family reunion one day and this was before my mother died. And the family reunion was at the house that my other sister had stayed at that time. She was gone. She had home. She was living somewhere else. So I took all my kids because they wanted the lady that was my aunt to meet the family, and everybody wanted to meet mommy because mommy didn't see everybody. So we got to see our cousins, I got to see my sisters, I got to meet my nieces and nephews, and they got to see. Here was the blowout. They got to meet me because I didn't know, but everybody that I encountered and met, they would say, Sharon, you Sharon? Oh my God, they were hugging me. He said, I heard so much about you. Good stuff. And I would say to myself, what kind of good stuff y'all can hear about me? I don't know, y'all. So, I was excited. I was meeting my family. I got to sit there with my mother. I'm trying to think if my husband was there. I don't think my husband was there. No, I think we had done separated. Because we separate early. So if they meet my kids, and all my kids is born except for my last child, then yeah. So, yeah. So me and my husband separated after my second child. No, my third child. Which was the middle child. Well, I won't say the middle child. I'll say the last child. Why did I always call her the middle child? Because she wasn't the middle. Because the middle child would mean that you the oldest. You got the oldest, and you in the middle, and then you got the baby. So it wasn't like that. It was the oldest boy, then it came the oldest girl. She was the last child. She never was the middle child. Wow, that's something to think about. Now I'm thinking about it. And all through life, I will always say that I was a middle child. And people used to always say, yeah, that middle child. They don't like to be the middle. And I never really paid attention to what I was saying. But she wasn't the middle child. She was my last child. And then came Danielle. And Danielle became the baby. So it's like me. I was the last child because I'm the baby. So I had all these sisters ahead of me, in front of me, and this brother. So my mother never had boys. She had 3 girls. One, two. She had 4 girls. She had 4 girls. So I had 4 sisters and 1 brother. And I always thought that I had 4 brothers. People ask me how many brothers I got 4 brothers and 4 sisters. It just sounds good. But then when I found out the real nitty gritty of the family, I only had 1 brother. And that brother was on my mother's side. So my mother really didn't, I don't really know. Let me put it that way. I really don't know what happened. And me coming to my grandmother is because of my father. My father did not want me to stay over in that atmosphere for whatever reason. And he never told me why. So he got to talk about the church and tell me things about the church family and what was going on in the church. He told me some things in reference to him and his brother and his sister that spilled over into the church. But he wouldn't tell me what I needed to know. He didn't tell me nothing about my family. My mother, my sisters, and all that. Why I didn't know nothing about my mother. Why I didn't know nothing about the other sister that he had. See, he was keeping his dirt sound. But he was talking about everybody else. He was talking about everybody else. He was talking about everybody else's dirt, but he was keeping his dirt sound. And his dirt was, why did you take me from my mother? What went on between you and my mother that you felt like you didn't want me to know? And here's the catch. I had my mother's last name. On my birth certificate today, it says my mother's last name. And that was who she married. Because, let me think. Because I think our last names is not, like from my mother's side, this is like a Paul, like a biblical thing. Paul was a Roman and Paul was a Gentile. When he was on the road to Damascus, he got converted to the Gentiles side. He became a Christian. So when he was over on the Gentile side, he was a Gentile, and his name was Paul. But when he went over to the Roman side, his name was Saul. Even though he no longer had that character of Saul with killing the Christians, he still was Saul over there. So when he came over and got connected with the Gentile, when he went over to the Gentiles, to the Roman side, it was because they captured him and put him in prison because they thought he was a Gentile. But when he got in prison and he began to break down the Roman side of things, they found out that he was a Roman, and the priest wanted him, the Roman Empire wanted him to be silent and just leave. And he told him, he said, no, you going to come in front of everybody and let everybody know that you acknowledge me as a Roman. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so with that being said, over here, I was a Wilson, and over here, I was a Douglas. So my birth certificate was a Douglas, but the Douglas came from my sister's father. So in other words, this is what they were saying. When I told my sisters that my name was Douglas, they said, wait a minute, Sharon. They said, what you talking about, Douglas? I said, yeah, that's my name. I said, where that name come from? I said, my father was a Wilson, and my grandmother was a Wilson, but her her maiden name was Glover. I said, so where Douglas coming from? Right? And they were saying, wow. They said, that's our father's name. That's our father's name. But even though I had their father's name, my father is the gene I took. I mean, the domineering gene. Because I got a little bit of my mother gene in me. Because that must be the gene that they would see. Oh, you look so much like mommy. My father would say, you look just like your mother. My grandmother would say, you look just like your mother. You know, so a little bit of her gene was in me. But looking at my pictures and looking at my father and all this, my features was just like my father. I'm going to tell you honestly, my features changed because of salvation. I think a lot of my bullying and a lot of my mistreatment and stuff was due to the fact of how I looked. And I have to say, it's me. I could talk about me. I didn't have the best features in the world compared to my other sisters. My other sisters on my mother's side, they looked very nice. And I was the one that always felt like the outcast based on how I look. I always thought that people treated me, always felt people treated me because of how I looked. And I think it probably was a memory to maybe people, certain people, because my features remind them of these people. So they treated me how they treated me because of how they felt about that person or those people. But that was the reason why I had a low self-esteem. You know, I heard it a lot. I was ugly. I heard people talk about me, talk about I'm skinny. You know, people talk about you. People talk about you. And people think that you don't hear them. You see what I'm saying? People thought my ears was closed up and locked up because I couldn't see out my eyes. Because I had glasses on. Oh, she can't see nothing, so she can't hear nothing either. But what they forgot is that when you lose one part of your senses, the other senses become more keen. So even though I couldn't see too much, I definitely could hear. And when I could see in my young age as a child, etc., I saw everything. My grandmother used to tell me, your eyes so big because you see something. You always seeing something. I would tell her thing. I'd be like, Mommy. She said, mind your business, Sharon. Them big eyes. You can see. And I would laugh because she never said it into the aspect of me being ugly. Right? But there was times it would come out and it would hurt me, whatever the case may be. But in all, I was taken care of. You see what I'm saying? Some people would say things and do things for spite, you know, just to literally and purposely hurt you. But I would know and tell when people were just saying things, you know, just following after people. But anyway, so my grandmother wound up taking care of me. Yeah, wound up taking care of me. They wound up taking care of me. You know, my mother, whatever her reason was, just like I said, on that deathbed, I let her know. And it probably helped her to leave the world, you know, with no, I don't know what, sad feelings or anything against her. But she didn't have to leave this world thinking that her daughter, her baby daughter, was mad with her. This is why I do not hold no grudges against nobody. The Bible says, grudge not one to another, that you don't become condemned. So your grudginess and your way you feel about somebody, when it come out, it's going to condemn you. It's going to let you see who you are in God, because you was in the corner having grudges and hatred and malice against this particular person. And when it come out, God going to let it sit you right in the face. And when it get there and sit you in the face, it ain't going nowhere. Every time you turn your head, it's going that way. That's why I don't hold no hatred for nobody. All that happened, nobody ain't say nothing to me against my mother. Nobody didn't tell me, oh, your mother was no good and all this stuff. Somebody did say some things about my mother to me because I happened to ask that person, but whatever they said, they said. That's what they knew. But it didn't change how I felt about my mother because that was my mother. There's no way I could hate a mother, especially not mine. Regardless of how a mother may treat a child, me personally, I'm talking about me. Because remember, this is my channel and I can say what I want about me, right? But when I'm talking about somebody else, I got to say the truth. But about me, I can say what I want about me. I could even lie about myself, but I'm not no liar. The Holy Ghost in me won't, Lord have mercy, won't allow me to tell no lies, not even about myself. I have to be honest. So even though my mother did whatever she did that I didn't know what she did, I still loved her. My grandmother raised me from the age of 3. So that's how long I was away. That's the start of my life away from my mother. Now, as far as I know, now I could have been away from her from birth. I don't know, right? But my grandmother told me that when I came to her, she said the Lord told her to take care of me. That's what she said. She said, because I already told your father, I ain't taking no child. I ain't taking care of nobody. My kids is big, and that's it. Everybody taking their own kid. She said, but she was praying one day, and the Lord told her to take care of Sharon. Just like that. That's what she told me. Now I'm thinking about, I forgot all about that. And you think I can't serve God? You think I won't give my life to the Lord? Oh my God. You think I won't listen to him? All the stuff I've been through, the way people talked about me, and the different things that happened to me in my life by people, even church folks. You think I can't serve God? Because he always been there. He always been there for me. He always been there. The fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. So my grandmother and my aunt, Gaga, even Mother Giles, prayers covered me. Right? So, I tell you. So that's how I got. That's what happened to my mom. What I know, why I was brought up by my grandmother. And she was the best grandmother. She was the best grandmother. And my mother's mother was the best grandmother. I had the mother's mother would get up every morning before she went to work, and she would make me some Jiffy pancakes. And when we came together, me and my sisters came together one time talking, they said, Sharon, let me ask you. She said, you stayed with Grandma, right? I said, yeah. She said, the time, they call her Gramps. They said, you stayed with Gramps? So I said, yeah. They said, the time that you were staying with her, what she would make you for breakfast? I said, for breakfast? I said, she made me some Jiffy pancakes. All of them cracked up and started laughing. I don't think my oldest sister got the chance to go through that experience because I don't think she ever lived with Grandma. Excuse me. Because she was the oldest. She was the, like, you know how you have somebody in there that's the Harvard child that goes to Harvard and becomes the best lawyer and get the penthouse and get the picket fence, the husband. That's who she was. She was that type of sister. You know, good things. She was good things. She was good thing. She was good. She was good. You know what I'm saying? She was good. They was good. That side of the family is very good. What I known about my father's side is connection to the church. Yeah, my father's side, my father's mother, and all that. They raised up in church. Yeah, they raised up in church. So that's where I get my church genes from, and my church knowledge, and still being in the church at 61 years of age, still there in that church, not going nowhere unless I get kicked out, which that may be coming soon. You know, that's the only way I would disconnect myself from my church, if I'm literally told, you can't come to this church no more. We don't want you here no more. We can't have you here no more. We don't want you preaching here no more. We don't want you being the evangelist here no more. That's the only way I would stop going to that church. Other than that, the upbringing from my grandmother and my aunt, Bishop Mingo, kept me holding on, not only to the church, but to God. Everybody else is gone. If they not going in death, they going out the church. But I cherished and loved God from the bottom of my heart, that I felt like I owed it to him to be faithful. I owe it to. The song say, how much I owe for Christ divine, love divine. How much I owe since Christ is mine. And what he is to me, I know. I cannot tell how much I owe. I gotta sing that again. How much I owe for love divine. How much I owe since Christ is mine. And what he is to me, I know. I cannot tell how much I owe. Let me see if I can remember the other one. He died. He gave his life on Calvary. He died for you, and he died for me. I cannot tell how much I owe. How much I owe. Woo. How much I owe. I forgot the words. How much I owe for Christ divine. They don't even sing this song no more. How much I owe since Christ is mine. And what he is to me, I know. I cannot tell how much I owe. So I owe him. I owe him. I owe him. I owe him my life. I owe him my time. I owe him my heart. I owe him my soul. I owe him my eyes, my teeth, my ears, my brain. I owe it all to him. I owe it all to him. Because when I sit back and think about not only what I've been through, but when I sit back and think of how he thought about me and how he opened up my grandmother's love, heart, to take care of me when she said she wasn't going to do it. She wasn't going. She said, I wasn't going to do it, Sharon. And I would sit there. I was a little child, and I would sit there and I would look out. Why she telling the story? I didn't feel no kind of way because, hey, I'm living with her now, so she could tell me how she felt. I respect her feelings. She said, yeah, I didn't want to be bothered with you, Sharon. You was a little bit nothing. You was a little tiny thing. So she, in other words, she was saying I ain't had no weight. I was bony. My legs was all crooked. She said I ain't had no weight on me. She said my hair was about that much. Right? And she said she was praying and the Lord told her, take care of Sharon. She said, and that's what I'm doing, Sharon. She said, I'm taking care of you. And you know what? When she got sick and when she got up in age, I took care of her. Yes, I did. I took care of her. I took care of her medical business. Even though my other cousin, you know, was the financial one, whatever was going on with the money, she took care of all that. You know what? And now I'm thinking about it. I know mommy was getting a check. I wonder what happened to her checks. Yep. See, and I wasn't even all about that. When she got into the hospital, she didn't die in the hospital. She died in her home. But when she got in the hospital, she, no, I think she did die in the hospital. I think they had to rush her to the hospital. You know, that's a story I never really knew about because it wasn't really fully told to me. But anyway, when she went to the hospital this time, I went to visit her, and she said to me, she said, Sharon, she said, I want you to go in my house. She said, I don't like that John Boo, that wasn't his name. She said, I don't like that John Boo has a key. She said, but I want you to get there and go there as quickly as you can. I was driving at the time. She said, I want you to go there as quickly as you can. And she told me the different places where to go. She said, and I want you to get that money. She said, because I don't want nobody to get it. She said, I want you to get it. I said, okay, mommy. She said, I said, I'm going to go. She said, when you going to go? I said, when you want me to go? She said, can you go tonight? I said, she said, is you driving? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, all right, good. She said, go to my house. And she told me all the places. That's why I say the Bible said he'll keep you in perfect peace whose minds are stayed on him. So he kept my grandmother's mind. My grandmother did not get hallucinations. She did not go crazy. She was not remembering things. Every time I came to see her, she knew who I was. She held conversation with me. She even would tell me that the Lord sent the angels to come and visit me. Now, the people was laughing at her. And I got offended. I said, what y'all laughing at? Ain't nothing funny. Y'all better hope that the Spirit of God visit y'all. So y'all want to talk about it. I got mad. I got up and I walked out of there. I don't know whether it was a Sunday school or what, but they was laughing hard at her when I would tell her testimony because she told it to me and I told it to them. How she said, I went to visit her one Sunday and she said to me, she said, how was church? I said, it was okay, mommy. She said, well, I had church up in here. I'll be honest with you. I thought she was on the mind. I said, you had church up in here, Mom. What you talking about? She said, I'm telling you. She said, she said, the lady preach. I said, the lady preach? She said, right there. So she showed me. It was in the middle of her floor, of her living room. She was in a rocking chair rocking. She said, She said, they had the people singing. She said, I saw the lady singing, both of them singing. One standing on this side and the other one standing on that side. And they sing. She said, I couldn't hear them, but they was singing. They was singing. And she said, oh my goodness, it was just so peaceful and beautiful. And I'm saying to myself, well, how you can experience that if you can't hear nothing? But this is what God did for her. He kept her soul spiritually connected to him. It had nothing to do with her mind. Her mind was intact. See, and that's why I got so mad with them when they was laughing, because I was saying, well, how you laughing? You ain't even go visit her. Please. My salvation back then was ghetto saved. And I would let people know, don't be talking about you love my grandmother, you ain't visiting her. Where all y'all at? She done been in this church for years, and y'all can't visit her? And the next Sunday, I go walking, open up the door and walk in, the whole church in there. I said to myself, I said, I had to open up my mouth. But anyway, so she said to me, she said, yeah. She said, there was somebody over here singing and somebody over there singing. She said, and after they finished singing, they disappeared. I ain't see him no more. And then the lady got up there and preached. She preached. She said, Sharon, that lady preached. I said, really, Mama? She said, yes. She said, I'm so, I'm a paraphrase the word because I can't remember what word she used, because it was like heavenly. It was like the third dimension, the third heaven word that I never heard before. And so I'm gonna use my word. It was, it was so out of this world. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. So she told me, go get that money. And when I left her, and I'll be honest with you, I did not feel like driving because she was in Brooklyn Hospital. And I had to take, well, she was downtown Brooklyn in Brooklyn Hospital, and she lived it over on Thomas Boyland. She lived on that side. So, oh, wow. So that means I would take Atlantic Avenue, right, and come down. Exactly. So, no, actually come around. So I went to her house that night, and I must have got there. Now it's like, it must have been like 12, 1 o'clock, right? And I got there, and I went to all the spots that she told me. That's what convinced me to know that her mind was right. Because it must was about 7 spots. And you know what? Them spots she told me, none of them spots was underneath her bed. And that's the first thing people think. Us black folks put money underneath our bed. Nope. She had them in places. And I'd be like, Mommy. And I'm going to look. I said, Mommy, ain't that. Oh. And I pull it out. It's a handkerchief wrapped up with money. Good money. Good money. When I say good money, a nice amount of money. So I don't know whether Mommy was saving money up for herself, for her funeral, right? And I think she had told me to use it right or something like that, right? So after I left there, I think 2 days later, I went back in the house just to check, because I would go in there and check up on the house, because my cousin was in charge of what was in the house and stuff like that. I wasn't told nothing. Because she would call me and ask me what I want. I'm cleaning out Mommy's house. What does you want? Mommy said for you to have this. No, Mommy said this person's going to have that. Da, 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 da. So anyway, I went this particular day, 2 days later. And for some reason, my mind told me to go mid-afternoon. Don't you know, when I walked in there, somebody was in there, the same person that she was saying she didn't want to be in there? No. The person that she was talking didn't want to be in there, was supposed to have the key. But the person that was in there wasn't supposed to have no key. And I went in. Yes, I did. I said, what you doing in here? Oh, I just came in to straighten up. I said, you don't need to straighten up. You need to get out. What you doing in here? You ain't see her when she was alive, so why you here? And I'm trying to think. No, Mommy wasn't dead yet. Mommy wasn't dead. So now, yeah, so she had to come back home, because after that, she died, but she died either on her way to the hospital or when she got in the hospital, however it was. But I know they said that they came and got her from the house. So I got to go and visit her. I'm trying to see, did I visit her in the hospital? No, I think I visited her home after that, because she came home after that. When I left, when I walked in there and saw that person in there, I left out and I put him out. I was telling him to give me the key. He said, well, I'm not giving you the key because you didn't give it to me. I said, well, you ain't got no business with it. I said, you better not come back in here. I said, I better not catch you back in here. I said, because otherwise I'm going to say, you're breaking and entering. Now, whether he went back in there, I don't know, but I ain't never found him back in there. And he had a different aspect of me, because this was family that I wasn't really connected to, because they didn't come and visit my grandmother. I called her Mommy because she raised me, so I didn't call her Grandma. I called her Mommy. My mother's mother, I called Grandma. But her, I called Mommy. I said, you was not in Mommy's life, so you need to just step off. Don't be. I ain't play when it came down to my grandmother. No, I didn't. My grandmother, my aunt, I did not play. And I didn't even play when it came down to Mother Giles. Do not play with me about Mother Giles. That's my aunt. But I went in on him. I tried my best to give me that key. You ain't got no business, but no, I got to give it back to the person. I said, well, who gave it to you? Who gave it to you? They didn't want me to tell me. I said, well, I'm going to find out. When I find out who gave it to her, I'm going to say something to him. So I made him leave. He left. I said, get out. You better get out. Otherwise, I'm calling the cops. Get out of mommy's house. He was in her bedroom. What you doing in her bedroom? This is her private area. What you doing? You in here like she dead. She ain't dying. Ooh, they ticked me off. So he hurried up and got up out of it. He said, all right, shove it. I believe. You're moving too slow. Oh my goodness, I miss my grandma. She was pure love. She really loved me. And then I went, as soon as he left, I checked around. And I was saying to myself, I said, you see, mommy knew what was going to happen. And she had said to me, she said, go. She said, because the person that got a key ain't supposed to have no key. Ain't supposed to have no key. But I wasn't thinking it was that person. I thought she was talking about this person, right? So I made my way. I couldn't get to the hospital fast enough to tell her, yep, I was a little tattletale, and I told it. And she said, I knew it. She said, did you go to all the places I told? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, you got them all? Yes, ma'am. You went to this place? Yes. She said, tell me the places. So I started naming the different places. And she said, did you go to this one? And I said, oh, no. She said, go back to that one and check and see. And if they didn't hit it yet, get it. And when I went to that one, I think that was the most. That was the most. I'm not going to tell you the amounts that I found, but it was the most. And I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm correct, I saved that money. I tried to save it. I don't know what I was saving it for, but I was saving it. So when it came down to using, I used it like for the gas of the car. And, you know, I used it like for food for the kids and Pampers for the kids. You know, I used it outside of myself. Outside of myself, right? So now, yeah. So that was crazy. So now, that was my grandmother. So, you know, I told you my mom's dying, and that was my grandmother's dying. So